Morning. Morning, Sandra. Morning, Christine. Morning, David. Morning, last Braveheart. And what we got? Morning, Susie, Brian, Nancy, PJ, Alex, Stephen, Marlon, Robert, Barbara, Karen, Stephen, Harry, Ian, Andy, John, Fiona, Dave, Ian, Derek, Ian again. Morning, Christina. Morning, Karen. Morning, Maggie. Morning, Neil. Morning, Ellie. Morning, Jacqueline. Morning, Alexander. Hey. Right, how we doing? Oh, wow, 120 is on board already. So let's get this broadcast underway. Well, once I get back to the first page for today. I was still writing a couple of minutes before I came on air. But that's the way I do it these days. Right, news review of the Indy Truck Davey out the truck not home in his office in Salford, North Lanarkshire, where it is a lovely morning, although a little chilly, at 8 degrees. Okay, that's the weather forecast for Salford, North Lanarkshire. Wonder weather like where you are. Look out your rain, bloody windy. Okay, news review for the 8th to the 11th, 2022, better known to you and me as yesterday. Alright. Righty. Tuesday started with bollocks and the rags. But the two big headlines for me was FM's hypocrisy over 5 million donation to reparation fund to help nations suffering the worst effects of climate change while cutting green project budgets at home. And the other headline that caught my attention was in the National, Starmer slams door closed on Indy Ref 2. So let's address these main headlines in yesterday's news, shall we? On the headline, on the donation to the reparation fund while cutting green projects at home, Scotland has contributed to the reparation fund before, and it will again. It's only fair that those who have caused the damage pay to alleviate the suffering and problems we have caused. Right, now the cuts to keep, when we get right down to it, it has been the rich Western nations. And Scotland's a mass contributor to this, because after all, we are a mass energy exporter, especially fossil fuels. So it's only fair that we give a little back. Now, as to the cutting of green projects here in Scotland, such as the Warm Home project and things like that, well, I've addressed this before. This isn't something that the Scottish Government want to do. They are being forced into it by inflationary pressures, meaning there's no wriggle room in the existing Scottish budget because Westminster won't adjust the budget for inflationary pressures, the Treasury, and the massive 1.8 billion cuts to the Scottish budget coming down next year. That said, that doesn't take away our responsibility for the damage caused to other people's places of living through our lifestyles and through our exploration and export of fossil fuels, which burning creates the greenhouse gases, which are seeing Pacific islands disappear into the latter, which is seeing desertification of the African continent. We have a moral obligation. 5 million's chump change. When we become independent and we have all the resources, then we can start looking at proper reparation. But what was interesting is that the loony right-wing rags, the Express and the Mail which ran this story, they ended up with egg all over their faces yesterday as Sunak announces that England and RUK will also pay into the reparation fund for the damage caused by the rich Western societies. Mentally. Here we have them, Stephen. Scottish Government bad for helping to pay for the damage we've done while cutting projects at home, whereas the Scottish Government's not cutting projects at home. Westminster's cutting projects at home by cutting their budget. And, of course, the fact that Sunak joins the reparation fund really made the lunatic right-wing rags look mental. Absolutely give them what they deserved. So it did. The on Starmer slams door closed on IndyRef 2. This comes after Mr. Starmer, who only has one MP in Scotland, came to Scotland for some nefarious reason or other and ended up in Scotland on Sunday. Now, the guy that clearly said in 2021 that if the SNP won a majority in 2021, it would be a mandate for IndyRef 2, now claims a pro-independence majority in the Scottish Parliament isn't a mandate for IndyRef 2. As I said yesterday, I don't think Starmer knew where he was. You know, as he sat in a Pacific Key, I don't think he had any idea where he was. It was like your own poem, The Weather Where You Are. Because that's exactly what Starmer did. He sat here in Scotland and told us he don't give a fuck what we think or what the will of the Scottish people are. It's not his priority. He says politics comes down to priority, and Scotland's no his priority. The will of the Scottish people's no his priority. Scottish democracy is not his priority. I expressed this yesterday, I'll express it again today. I was flabbergasted at what I was seeing in that pleb sat in Pacific Key. That was right-wing English nationalism at its very best, from a racist git who's too thick to realise he's a racist git. But, as I say, it's a bit like the poem, The Weather Where You Are. The weather where you are is no the weather where I am. That's why I do the weather podcast every morning. Because that wee poem reminds me of the democratic deficit we face. We'll get a wee bit more of that as we get into the broadcast. But I don't think Starmer was aware of his surroundings. Whatever advisory team he's got hasn't he got a bloody Scooby. Because what sat in that studio on Sunday, and I suggest if you still haven't seen it, watch it, was a fine example of racism, English exceptionalism, and English right-wing nationalism. And that basically rounds it up. But you've got to remember that the headline in the National was a parody. It was a joke. They were laughing at Labour and Starmer the same way the rest of us are. Because, let's face it, so there's some stuff here. Let's face it, it's not down to Starmer anyway. A, he's not in power, and B, it's a matter for the Scottish people. Simple as that. Even Westminster recognises that. That's why they're jumping through hoops to try and stop the Scottish people from having a say. Okay, that's that. So, let's move on. Tuesday, here in Scotland. And the day starts off with the latest A&E waiting time figures. Worst on record, cry the Pravda, and the cuckoo's in the nest. And, yep, it's true. The NHS is under extreme pressure. The pandemic backlog, ongoing pandemic causing staff shortages, and, of course, Brexit. And I want you to get this one, you read folks, when you hear the cuckoos in the nest talk about this. Brexit has caused a massive backlog in the hospitals. Bed blocking is back on a massive scale. Now, why do we lay that at the door of Brexit? Well, because those in health and social care, where people don't seem to want to work in health and social care, it's merification, where it is a well-paid job. So, the shortfall in staff in the health and social care sector was made up by Eastern Europeans. Brexit has sent all those Eastern Europeans home, leaving a massive void in the health and social care sector, meaning that people who could leave hospital to go home to a care package cannot leave hospital to go home to a care package. So, but we'll get a wee bit more of that when we get into the report. Okay. So, yep. NHS waiting times are out of hand. They really are. But they're still doing better than any other NHS in the UK because Brexit has caused the same problem in health and social care across the UK. Not that that matters very much in England, you know. But you know, the care sector, health and social care sectors left the UK, and here in Scotland, the backlog is we lost 25% of staff in the public sector. Aye, Evelyn, I'm aware of that. That's why I'm pointing it out here. You know, but here in Scotland, I want this one to be made quite clear actually. Here in Scotland, the cuckoos in the nest use the NHS as a political football to divert our attention from the disaster going on in the House of Thieves and Carpetbaggers, Brexit, the crash in the economy. That's ought to be diverted from our eyes by using our NHS and our wonderful NHS staff as a political football. The same thing's going on in England, but in England it's asylum seekers because they've spent years stoking the racist fires down that road. So every time there's a problem, they point at small boats coming across the channel and scream, "Ah! Others! We're racist, we don't like others!" So, actually, the Pravda right across these islands is comical as hell. But here in Scotland, you should be aware that the NHS is being used as a political football because the problems in NHS Scotland run right across healthcare services right across the world at this point in time. And they're all trying to recruit for each other. And, of course, in England, it's asylum seekers because they've been stoking the racist curve down there for years, especially pre-Brexit. Okay, moving on. On Wednesday, back here in Scotland, a review of plans for the National Care Service is underway in Holyrood. The cuckoos in the nest now want plans scaled back or scrapped because of the mess their imperial masters have made of the economy and their squandering of Scotland's resources. The Scottish Government to push ahead with plans for the National Care System. All right. And the National Care System will be there to work in tandem with the National Health Service. And this is where I said to you, we'll get a wee bit more of the bed blocking story as we go into the report. You see, when we create the National Care Service, people will want to go back into working in the health and social care sector because there will be a decent wage. That will unlock the bed blocking in the NHS, which will free up billions of pounds to pay for the National Care Service. So the cuckoos in the nest would lose their political football. They're no keen on that idea. So they want the plans for the National Care Service scrapped. But that National Care Service is absolutely much more required now than what it ever was if we're going to ever clear up the problems that have been created by Brexit and the cuckoos in the nests and their imperial masters. So we'll save billions. The billions we save will pay for the National Care Service. A wee bit like a circular thing. The cuckoos in the nest will lose their political football. But who cares? The other reason why the Scottish Government is pressing ahead with it is because they still expect to win the independence referendum next year. And I expect they will as well. Okay, moving on Tuesday, and it's reported that Scottish Borders Education Board have tied up with Apple to advance digital learning. Now, the Borders Education Board is one of the smallest in Scotland, and Borders Council used its advantage as being a small education board to issue all secondary school pupils with iPads 3 years ago, just prior to the pandemic. Pandemic came along, and we went to digital learning. The Borders Council Education area was particularly successful with online learning, digital learning, and that caught Apple's attention. So Apple approached the Borders Council and said, can we sign your education department up to our digital learning scheme? We would love to have you on board and learn with you and from you. So they're tied up with Apple. And that there is a story of excellence and excellence, and a good news story here in Scotland. Borders Council equipped our kids. Teachers did a wonderful job with digital learning. Big IT company wants to tie up with them and learn from them. And no doubt Borders Education Board will do well from the experience, as will the children. Now, they've created something called the Inspiration Academy. And every week on a Friday morning before the children and two high schools, Selkirk and Hoyt High, and a primary school, I can't remember the name of it, I can't remember bother looking down. They hook up with Apple's headquarters in the US, and before they start the lessons, and they already a good few pupils and teachers have qualified from the Inspire Academy within a short period of time. It just shows you what can be achieved when the technology is put in front of the children. What's the lady's name again? Yeah, Lisa Monroe, who is head of the education board down there, says the sky's the limit for Borders Education Department thanks to the sign up with Apple. Right, moving on Wednesday, and Scotland set to lose two constituencies in the Boundaries Commission. In the Boundaries Act, all right. Now, the Boundaries Commission for Scotland has put its plans out for final consultation with the public here in Scotland. Now, the Scottish public can object all they want. The decision's already been made in the House of Thieves and Carpetbaggers. Scotland to lose 2 seats. It was to lose 6, by the way, under Theresa May's original plan. But Scotland is to lose 2 seats. Wales is to lose 8 seats. Northern Ireland to stay the same. And England to gain 10 seats. Right. So there you have it. The devolved nations are to have even less say than now. And that's a fine example of the democratic deficit and why the Westminster system is broke. But it's not just here. You know, when these plans were drawn up, yep, England was going to get more seats, diminishing the say of the devolved administrations of the Scottish, Welsh and Northern Irish people in that Parliament, centralising power in England. But Theresa May also designed it so that the new constituencies created in England would move all the boundaries around within England to favour the Conservatives. You'll find that's in the headlines today, but we know about this, we spoke about it in the past. That's why you've heard David talking about gerrymandering of the constituencies, gerrymandering of elections. We spoke about this. ID Cares takes 3 million potential Labour voters out of the loop, move the boundaries about to favour Conservative voters, and you more or less perpetually would have a Conservative government. Of course, nobody realised that Truss the Lettuce would come along, and David Truss did. So the Tories will probably bang smack lose the next election, but they'll be back. This is where Scottish independence becomes important, because they might lose the 2024 election. They'll sit there and watch Labour floundering and not being able to do nothing because of the state of what's left. And of course, Keir Starmer being a little member of the established state doesn't really want to change nothing. He's also a bloody racist, so there's not much chance of getting back into Europe. And by the way, I'm going to put this out here because Some of the Labour people might have no liked what I've said there the last couple of days about Starmer being a right-wing exceptionalist, racist English nationalist, and about his dreadful performance on Scotland on Sunday. But if Anna Sarwar or Sir Comrade Starmer, the wholly bought and owned member of the establishment, wants to take me on about it, I'm quite happy to debate it on television, that particular interview, on the 6th of November 2022, or they can even take me to court. I'm saying it straight as it is. Starmer is a wholly owned red Tory, part of the establishment, and he's a right-wing English nationalist traitor. And I will base that statement on Sunday's interview here in Scotland. If he wants to try and sue me, I know he's some sort of legal ego. Bring it on, Starmer. Bring it on, Sarwar. I'm quite happy to debate with any time, anywhere, in any forum. Right, anyway, where am I? Moving on, doing that road. What was I on there before I went off and one? Aye, constituency boundaries being moved. Anyway, decisions been made. So, public consultation by Boundaries Commission Scotland. If you want to take part, go and bang your head off a wall in your own time. Okay, moving on. Tuesday, and down that road, Tory right-wing racist MP Mark Francois gets pulled up in the chamber over racist comments made the day before in the defence review over the Type 26 frigates. In that debate, reviewing the shit show that is military procurement, Mr. Francois points out that the Type 26 frigate is an excellent piece of kit, so it is. He points out that they've sold the design to Canada, they've sold the design to Australia, and both of these navies successfully have Type 26s in their fleets. He then goes on to ask why there's going to be another 12-month delay to a Type 26 joining the UK Navy. This one's a cracker, by the way. He also says this delay will cost the UK taxpayers £250 million. Get that one tapped in your heads there, kiddies. He also questions why BAE Systems is taking 11 years to put a tub in the water. You couldn't make it up. Ferguson Marine, 2 years late with 2 tubs. A fleet of Type 26, 11 years late. An extra £250 million in an overrun. Mind I said an extra. It's already something like £6 billion over budget here in the UK. Anyway, Mr. Francois questions BAE Systems why it takes them 11 years to get a tub in the water. And then he says it only takes the Japs 4 years. When you think about that. Anyway, this is brought up by a Labour member for a Parliament, Sarah Owens, who is of Southeast Asian descent, yesterday. So the comedy gets even better. It's brought up as a point of order. And Sir Lindsay Oil says, I realise it was casual racism, as if that makes it all right. MPs should consider their words better. At that point, Davy falls off his chair laughing. The MPs for Northern Ireland, Wales and especially Scotland must have been absolutely flabbergasted that it would come out the Speaker's gob. I mean, MPs should be much more careful about casual racism. Jesus. Has anybody ever seen Prime Minister's questions? Anybody ever seen him debate in that bloody chamber? Anytime an Irishman, a Scotsman, or Welshman gets up to speak, the casual racism isn't so bloody casual. English exceptionalism is on display. Right-wing English nationalism is what that Parliament's all about. And here we've got the Speaker pulling up a right-wing racist for using casual racism. Is it just me? Am I the only guy that sees this stuff? Wow. So, it isn't alright to say Japs when referring to Japanese people, and I have to agree. Casual racism is racism. But no, when it comes to Jock, Paddy and Taff, it's only banter. You couldn't make it up. Right, moving on Wednesday, back here in Scotland. And solar companies want planning reforms and business rates cut to help their businesses grow as demand to get off grid is high. They want the laws changed to allow 5 megawatt installations to be permitted without planning permission. The current level is 50 kilowatts, so they want 5 megawatts instead of 50 kilowatts. The body also wants exemptions on non-domestic rates, as they say their businesses should not pay for decarbonising. The Scottish Government already offered discounts for companies moving to clean energy sources, and a spokesperson for the Scottish Government said they'd look into how support could be developed. Also Tuesday here in Scotland, the cost of HM Prisons Highlands rose to 140 million quid. The original estimate was £52 million. The Scottish Prison Service responded to a freedom of information request from the Scottish Tories, and they didn't have slap the Scottish Tories one, did they know? The Scottish Prison Service. The Scottish Prison Service said it was 52 million, but we discovered better security tech, better tech that would make the flow and the movement of people around the prison and visitors to the prison better, so it went up to 66 million. And they then goes on to tell the Scottish Tories that the delays caused by the pandemic had a cost burden as well, and they also go on to tell them that Brexit and the crash in the economy and rocketing inflation rates have also had a bearing. So the Tories thought they were getting a political football to play with, and as they go, was slapped by the Scottish Prison Service. Nice one, Scottish Prison Service. Stick up for yourself. Moving on. Okay, Tuesday, also here in Scotland, Highlands and Islands Airports Limited, Highlands and Islands Transport Partnership, Highlands and Islands Enterprise, Orkney Council and Logan Air are looking at the idea of an electric airship stroke plane designed by Hybrid Air Vehicles, who are based in England, to work lifeline services in the Highlands and Islands area. Now, the craft they are interested in is the Airlander 10. Now, the vehicle stroke aircraft is 92 metres long and is capable of moving passengers and freight. Now, the vehicle was successfully tested in England, but the programme ended in 2017 when the airship broke free of tether and an automatic safety system deflated the ship. All right, now, at the time, it was hybrid. It had I think it was burning propane, and it had electric capabilities. But what they're saying is they could put this airship back into the programme and make it totally electric. So it looks like there's going to be a test period in the near future on the idea of this 92 metre long airship. And if you want to see a picture of what it looks like, there's one on the Pravda website, anti-service. So Logan Air, obviously, they're interested because it would be a great bit for business for them if this thing works. They would be able to increase the amount of freight they carry to the islands and the amount of people they carry to the islands. Okay, so that was an interesting story. And moving back down that road to Englandshire, 2 councils are taking the Home Office to court to end the hotel scheme to house migrants in their areas. Ipswich Council and East Riding of Yorkshire councils say hotels in their areas are being turned into asylum seeker hostels without planning consent, and they want the courts to close them by court injunction. Now, you get what you sow, folks. Now, down that road, they've been peddling racism. We don't want these people coming to Britain. Well, you take that down to the local level, then the racists you've created at the local level don't want these people in their area either. So what Ipswich Council have done and what East Riding Council in Yorkshire have done is they've looked at it and went, these people are not coming to visit a hotel. They're coming to be put up here long term. These aren't the hotels anymore, they're hostels. And they went, there's no planning consent for hostels. And we don't want these buggers in our areas because we are right-wing racists because 12 years of Tory government and right-wing fascist newspapers have been telling us to. So it's a double whammy for a Home Office, especially. It's a slap in the face for these two councils. But if the courts put injunctions in place for these two councils, watch all the councils in England do the same. Watch them all. Then the Home Office is really going to be snookered. Concentration camps will be created, which is what was being talked about in the debate, actually. I tell you, we're talking about tented villages to put these people in. Because racists in England don't want them in their communities. And I mean that, I don't mean that derogatory to people of England. That's part of the programming that they've had in their media over the last 12 years. The Brexit thing was a prime example of it. Huh? Get rid of the Poles, get rid of the Eastern Europeans. Polish plumbers come to take my job. This is what's coming for guys with a GCSE, and games, and probably an STD. Polish plumber wasn't coming to take his job. Romanian a graduate wasn't coming to take his job. But this is what was peddled into these people. And now, the UK government's about to reap what it sowed with its right-wing racist media and its peddling and vile hate of other human beings, including the Scots, the Taffs, including the Jocks, the Taffs and the Paddies. Well, coming back to bite them in the bahookie. And it's their own people that are doing it and their own councils that are doing it. Comedy. Absolute comedy gold. Anyway, moving on, the last bit I wanted to talk about for Tuesday was the resignation of Sir Gavin Williamson, the bully. Now, Sir Gavin, his behaviour has been leaked to the press. First is Stussy with ex-whip down that road, ex-Tory party whip, and then his abuse of a civil servant at the Ministry of Defence. But I have to say, I loved his resignation. His resignation letter was brilliant. He doesn't want to become a distraction from the good work the Tory government's been doing. Well, we'll get to the 2019 administration in a minute, but let's have a look at the good work the Tory party have been doing since we got into power. There's been a cull on the disabled, the weakest among us, the poorest among us, and the pensioners. Right? But with the introduction of disastrous universal credit, throwing people into poverty, but with the rise of food banks, there's more of them what there is fast food restaurants. 1 in 4 children in England going to bed, 1 in 3 children in England go to bed hungry, 1 in 4 in Wales and Northern Ireland go to hungry, 1 in 5 in Scotland go to bed hungry. Grannies riding the bus to stay warm. And let's move on to the present administration and the one before it. Brexit, contraction of the markets. Bojo and his Robin Ready deal. Truss and a crashing of the economy. Can anybody point out any good work that these spanners have done in the last 12 years? Wow, the last administration brought such international shame and domestic shame on our politicians that England doesn't trust the politicians rightly. So Scotland, Wales and Northern Ireland are looking for the fucking exit door. Wow. Doesn't want to interrupt the good work the government's been doing. The guy's some sort of sadomasochist. I haven't even mentioned bloody the 200,000 odd unnecessary deaths during the pandemic. Wow. The Tories have been an unmitigated disaster for 12 years. And Sir Gavin, he's resigning because he doesn't want to distract the good work the government's doing. Oof. Is it just me? Yeah, unbelievable, eh? I know you guys can see it too. Oh, here we go. Right, listen, they're the stories I picked out for yesterday. I hope you found them entertaining. I hope you found them informative. I hope you found the delivery to be entertaining. Let's have a wee look and see what crap's in the rags today. Yesterday was I don't know why I do this, but it doesn't help get my blood pressure going. Alright, Scotland's paper. Post office IT scandal appeal and Williamson quits. The Herald has 6 Scots victims of post office IT scandal to be able to appeal their cases. Now, if you're not aware of this, it had to do with an IT system that was forced upon postmasters by the Royal Mail when it was still in public hands. That's why the public's having to pay out to meet the compensation rather than the Royal Mail, which is now a private company. Anyway, this Horizon system, it was called, it was faulty, and thousands and thousands of sub-postmasters were prosecuted for fraud when not a fraud was committed. Anyway, 6 of them in Scotland are now being able to appeal to the High Court. The Scottish Daily Mail has Williamson forced out and cut your throat bully row. Huh? That's not bad for a right-wing fascist newspaper which supports his sort. The Scotsman has Williamson quits as bully claims become distraction. Help me! Distraction for the good work that these Tories have been doing. Man. The Times has Williamson quits amidst new claims of bullying, and Sturgeon criticised for Orwellian energy stars. Energy stars? Well, yeah, I don't know what that's all about. The Metro has, it's a jungle out there. He's in and he is out. Picture Hancock getting into the jungle and Williamson leaving the cabinet. The eye has Williams resigned to admit bullying and new security risk claims. Oh dear, what's this say? Sir Gavin Williamson quits as government minister after Number 10 opens investigation into latest bullying claims. UK intelligence officers have also accused him of becoming a risk to national security, the eye can reveal. His new cabinet job gave him oversight of UK security issues, despite Williamson being sacked as Defence Secretary in 2019 for allegedly leaking highly sensitive information, which he denies. Security sources tell the eye they did not trust him since his sacking. Intelligence sources claim new role contained proposed a possible leak, and former UK senior security official tells the eye, I would not want a known leaker to be in charge of this important tool for keeping to manage our nation's security interests. What's interesting about that story in the eye is it's what a twat. It's a bag of tits. Bag of crap. Why? Because Mr. Williamson was in cabinet as the minister without portfolio. Okie dokie. The Daily Telegraph has Williamson quits over bullying allegations. The Lonely Rag the Express has an insult to all those who serve. Daily Express reports on anger surrounding the choice of pin on a poppy worn by SNP MSP during Holyrood Committee. Listen, I'm going to throw my tuppence worth in this one, folks. I don't normally. I'm not putting a fucking poppy on this year. I'm an ex-serving soldier. I'm not putting one on. You know why? Because it is not there for remembrance anymore. It's there as a British nationalist tool to flog us. you don't want to wear a poppy, you want to wear a white poppy, you want to wear a green poppy, a yellow poppy, whatever colour, a rainbow poppy, do you please. I'm not putting one on this year. I'll pay my respects in my own way. But the poppy has become a baton to beat us with as a people. How we choose to remember shouldn't be imposed upon us. Or how we choose to forget should be allowed. So, an outrage over a poppy in the Holyrood Chamber. I think go and boil their heads. Yeah, extreme British nationalist twaddle. The National has period fury as Jack to stay on in Commons. Oh, aye. We've already spoke about Alistair Jack getting a knighthood. Did we know? Did I not write that down? I did actually. I must have skipped it. Union Jack gets knighthood. Yeah, Arts bootlicker. And and Troffer gets awarded for being a traitor to his own people. The record has enemies of the poor. Cameron, May, Johnson, Truss, Sunak. Yep. And the Star has, please bear this news in mind when voting, folks. Fears of a clown. I'm a Celebrity Wazzock reveals he's petrified of all snakes. Coco expects to face every trial, but still hopes to win. There you go. Fears of a clown. Please mind this news of voting on the TV programme thing. Sorry, folks, I went right over my bloody head there. You know I don't watch telly. Right. Thoughts on DUP motion that referendum are granted only if a superminority. Listen, you're going to get Britain that desperate, absolutely desperate right across these islands. You're seeing them here in Scotland. We've just seen an idiot on Sunday tell us there is an exit route for the Scots out of the Union, but he's not telling us where it is because he doesn't want it. It's not his priority, and he's a right-wing English nationalist. The idea that they're all going to propose a super minority to get out of this union, just ignore them, as the rest of the planet will. You know, super majorities and referendums not a bad idea if it's already agreed upon when you set out down that road. It hasn't been agreed upon as we set out down that road, and we've had a series of referendums where majority rules. So the rules are quite clear in how the democracy works here. Win the majority, you win the case. Simple as that. And generally, the places where they have these super majorities, they have full proportional representation, which means everybody's voice is heard. That's why the Green Prospectus for New Scotland had a couple of interesting things on it, as I said. This idea of going fully proportional, I like it. I absolutely like it. True form of democracy. No, Starmer is no a friend of the poor either, Christ. Starmer's no a friend of anybody but himself. He's a typical Tory. He's climbing the greasy pole, and he doesn't give a damn who he craps on the way up. Look at what happened to Corbyn, the last decent person in the Labour Party. Right, that's what I go for you, folks. I hope you found it entertaining. I hope you found it informative. Time to round this one up. Oh, Christ, we're running out again. First Minister's Zone. Remember, eyes on the prize. Learn you how you gonies, win hearts and minds. Okay. Support the independent media and follow the last bits of guidance on the pandemic. Okay. Davey's out of here. I'm going to watch First Ministers. Because, you know, I like to torture myself. You guys have a lovely day.